Anyways, we're back. And Jason's going to pick it up where he left off, chatting about how he didn't take advantage of the renown change that took place when it came to playing your alt first up to level 10 and then playing your main so that you got a faster streamline, and how doing things like merging reputations across your entire account isn't something that he would support because he feels like the gameplay of that is detrimental to player experience when it comes to things like that. All right, Jason.
Yeah, I think overall, this change, it removes those kind of edge cases like we saw at the beginning of Dragonflight Season 3. And there's no real motivator to do that, right? Like, you are not going to get some kind of benefit where, oh, I unlocked this minor rep bonus for all my characters, and I'm going to take advantage of it to play my main second once I have it unlocked and then have a more streamlined path. You're just always earning progress towards your goals with a system like this. And I'm sure that there will be cases where players try to find little edges they can exploit to try to get something a little bit faster. But, overall, you shouldn't be put in a position where you feel like, or that everyone is telling you around the community, that the correct way to do this is actually really strange and potentially more time consuming. But if you don't do it, then you're not taking advantage of this minor upgrade that you could take advantage of, or minor benefit that you could take advantage of. Because one thing, most of us don't have the kind of time to play that the people who are saying we should do this are playing either, right? So I think a lot of this just is a huge quality of life and makes it also impossible to do it wrong, kind of, right? In the broadest selection of cases, like, log in, play the game, do your quests, do your events, do whatever it is that you want to do in the game, and then your rewards are going to stack up, and you can play whatever character you want. So, I think it's a great change, because also, I mean, thinking about it from the other direction, I want to play my alt. I have now done a bunch of stuff on my main, but my main is not quite at the point where my alt will receive this minor benefit. So now I need to wait one more week or day rotation, and then I can play the way I want to play, because my main will have this benefit unlocked for my alt that my alt will then take advantage of, and then I'm utilizing my time better that way. You could end up on the other side of that as well. So I think this is going to remove all those kinds of temptations or those situations where you have to do something that really makes no logical sense and maybe isn't even very fun to do in order to, just eke out some small advantage.
Yeah, hopefully that's what we see happen. We'll have to see what players decide and how players choose to take part in it. But yeah, it's an interesting changeover that we're going to have to see happen with these reputations. They did list the reputations being affected by this. We have Rathian and Sibelian, Cobalt Assembly, Artisans Consortium, Azerothian Archives, Siradormi, and then under Renown we have Dragonscale Expedition, Morok Centaur, Iskar Tuskar, Veldraken Accord, Loam Niffin, and Dream Wardens. So those are all the ones being affected by this merger as far as what we're going to see. There are a few reputations they've opted not to convert, including Winterpelt Faubourg and the Glimmerog Racer, were due to not fitting within the fantasy for those reputations. The Winterpelt Faubourg has a language learning component that doesn't make much sense to be shared across characters, and the Glimmerog Racer reputation feels more like a personal standing with the snail races than an actual reputation that should be shared. These are minor reputations that wouldn't be impactful on the Warband-wide account system. So, when it comes to future conversion reputations, the current plan is to work backwards into older expansions, converting many old reputations over time. As it's a time-consuming effort, it will take a while to implement. Similar to reputations within Dragonflight, there will be a limited number that won't be converted. Usually, this is because it doesn't make sense for the fantasy perspective, or because it involves a character-specific choice. For example, Aldor Scryer in Burning Crusade and the Covenants and Shadowlands won't be converted because they represent per character choices. The other one that I would use, and this is separate from what they posted, is Brawlers Guild. I probably wouldn't put the Brawlers Guild rep as something that's account wide. I'd probably keep that to character specific because, again, you're a champion who's fighting inside a space. That character has its own path as far as that goes. So that's another thing I'd highlight as someone who wants Brawlers Guild back. Please open Brawlers Guild again. All right. Part of the Warband reputation, this is the first time quest rewards. Reputation implementation is in satisfying the goal that players with many alts don't have an intrinsic advantage over those who play their time on single player. To accomplish this, they're introducing a new concept for quest rewards. Players can earn a bonus quest reward for any quest completed the first time on their warband. An additional different bonus can be granted for completing the quest additional times. So in this case, they are showing a clip of getting Council of Dornogal grants reputation with the Council of Dornogal token for 2,500 rep. And this would be something that is considered the bonus for doing it the first time. After that, you would still receive the 23 gold and green gloves that are a reward on your alt character. You just wouldn't get that reputation as part of that. And there's a little icon that shows that it's, this one-time warband bonus. There's the flavor text that it shows on that. So you'll be able to see the first time you've completed this quest, which also explains why when I was doing some alpha stuff on 2 different characters, I was seeing the your warband has already completed this quest as an actual pop-up inside of the quest text when I was accepting quests. So I knew whether or not there was a reward I essentially wasn't getting anymore because someone else had already completed that particular content. Well, a different character had already completed that different content is what I should say. All right. The most common way we anticipate granting this bonus in War Within quests is when rewarding warband reputation. Specifically, we plan for quests to only give reputation as the first time completion bonus. On additional completions of the quest on alts, players will earn a bonus reward currency similar to Dragon Isle supplies instead of reputation. This currency will be freely transferable across the warband and can be used to purchase various warband level rewards such as cosmetics, mounts, and pets. With this setup, you can complete quests for any character you want without impacting your reputation or progress. Whichever character completes them first will earn the reputation for your warband. This also avoids the situation in which players who play many characters can rapidly advance in reputation over someone who only plays one character, which makes perfect sense. But you might ask, what about diplomacy? Human racial diplomacy is currently designed to grant a 10% bonus to reputation for players who choose that race. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, with warband reputations, this racial causes problems due to its character-specific nature. So, we don't want players to feel compelled to play specifically a character, like a particular race, to earn warband rewards more efficiently, so they will convert this race-specific bonus into something new, and we'll share more information on that at a later date. In other words, diplomacy is going away. You are losing one of the oldest running bonuses for a racial passive for a race that they have in the game. We're going to see that go away, and it'll be replaced with something else for humans. So humans, get ready for a new racial.
Yeah, I mean, they just had to, right?
Yeah.
Because if they didn't, then everybody would just have to play human all the time. Like your first time through every content, you'd have to do as human, because otherwise you're just leaving 10% renown rep on the table. So
yeah,
it is a little sad in a way, because it is, it's a hallmark of this game for 20 years. But with this new system, in my opinion, it has to go. I think, one of my big concerns about this coming in was that, okay, I am a player who really has a dedicated main. My primary interest is only in playing my main character. Am I going to have to play more than one character in order to really take advantage of the system, or to play quote unquote, optimally or semi-optimally? And the answer is really no. It doesn't sound like, they make many references to it throughout this blog post, and including in the part about the first time quest rewards, that they don't want having a main character to be a penalty, and I think that's perfect. So you get all kinds of benefits from whatever you as a player do, but there's no strict advantage to having a giant alt stable that you're playing through a bunch of different content with either, right? There are benefits, but there's no real advantage if that's the playstyle you enjoy. So I think that's good. And it is weird. It's really weird that human diplomacy is going away, but really, if they didn't, then they would just be literally correct to do all first-time questing and all rep granting activities as a human toon, and that is not a good way to design the game. There are all these different races you could play for a reason, and there shouldn't just be a correct answer to something like, how should I level up and do story questing? Yeah,
exactly. Okay, let's talk a little bit about achievements. In the past, we've played with your account-wide achievement point totals in some places. They've had some account-wide component to them. They've had some character-specific components to them. But only your character total, like character total number, in total in others, like in guilds. With the introduction of warbands, they want all achievements to be considered warband achievements. You, the player, accomplish them, so you should not feel like you need to complete them on more than one character, or feel like you do not want to play another character because they are missing achievements. Given this, we are eliminating the concept of character-based achievement score. From now on, a total warband score will be tracked and displayed instead. The score will be the sum of all account-wide achievement points plus the points for any character-specific achievements completed on any character. They're also converting many achievements to account-wide. In fact, I see they haven't kept the same lingo. They're converting to warband-wide. I want to clarify. In fact, they will be converting approximately 2,000 achievements from across all expansions. The philosophy we are following for this conversion is that if an achievement has the possibility of sharing progress across characters, e.g. do X things, we want to convert it so all characters can share progress on it. It shouldn't matter whether you return 50 flags the defender in Warsong Gulch on a single character, or whether you like PvPing on 10 characters and did 5 on each. There are a few exceptions to this, however, specifically the achievements where doing activity on one character is part of what makes it hard or interesting. One such example is Insane in the Membrane. The hard part of this achievement is maxing out diametrically opposed reputations. We don't want to undermine the accomplishments of players who completed these particular difficult achievements in the past, so we won't be converting achievements like this. That makes perfect sense. For those who are curious about this achievement, it was raised the reputation to honored with Bloodsealed Buccaneers and exalted with Booty Bay, Everlook, Gadget's Hand, Ratchet, Darkmoon Faire, and Ravenholt. So you had to find a way to balance these reputations out and accomplish this task, which was challenging to do on one character. If they had multiple characters, you just get honored with, Bloodseal Buccaneers on one character and then do all the other stuff on the other character and not have to suffer any of the opposition that would take place by working for one is hindering the other. So that makes perfect sense to me that they would.
Yeah, that short circuits the whole spirit of that achievement, you know. And also, these are not achievements that have real impacts on your character progression or whatever in terms of power. These are purely optional, So I think that's smart. It's I like the idea of, okay, if this thing you have to do 50 times, you can do it,
5 times on each character,
multiple times on different characters. Like that kind of stuff makes perfect sense because it's your time and it's your time logged into the game and you're the one playing it. But yeah, I do think that people might look at it and go, well, I just want the achievements and I want the rewards from it, and what's the difference how I do it? But the whole point of something like Insane in the Membrane is, navigating those competing achievements and putting all that time into the grind, going from one side back to the other, or, whatever the case is for some of those reps. So I feel like if they change that would indeed really undermine it for people that already earned it, because it's not the same achievement anymore, in my opinion. So I think, I'm glad that some of that stuff is on their radar and they're trying to be smart about some of it. But for many years now, the way rep has functioned in the game is sort of this barrier to certain content or rewards that you're sort of just expected to have from investing time in the game. And so, those are the types of reps that really need this system to apply to them, and just have players have the flexibility to switch around however they want.
Yeah, exactly. They're also keeping some not necessarily character specific achievements, but they're letting certain achievements be more visible as to which characters you completed them on. Things like Memories of Teldrassil. They go in here and say any achievements that would not benefit from shared progress across characters, such as Memories of Teldrassil, will be left character specific, so you can see cool things you've done on specific characters for posterity. But again, they have no impact on your achievement score, rewards, or ability to complete achievements. So just keep that in mind. They've also taken a look at rewards granted by achievements. For these, they mostly want them to be warband wide. Therefore, in many cases, they're looking at making the rewards go to the entire warband, such as most titles. In other cases, they're simply converting the entire achievement and its reward to account wide. For example, dungeon teleports earned by Keystone hero achievements will become account wide, both in achievement and reward. So, hey, if you've been keeping up on your teleports, guess what? All of your characters will have access to the teleports. That's pretty phenomenal as a reward, I would say, for folks who've been actually putting in the effort to doing that every season.
Yeah, I think that's a really good addition. I mean, again, for somebody like me, it doesn't impact me a lot because I don't really do keystones on more than one tune. But like, I don't feel like, especially with sort of the way we've seen this reward structure evolve for Mythic Plus with the dungeon teleports, I just don't feel like it's prestigious enough that like, oh, you have to prove that you did it on this character. We're not talking like a PvP title or something. You know what I mean? I feel like that's where the particular character really comes into play, and like skill expression on that character comes into play a lot more than timing a plus 20 dungeon, which is a cooperative, exercise. I mean, hell, you can buy it. You know what I mean? So I think having it go account wide to me is fine. I don't feel like this undermines my character's accomplishments or something, or gives a player who plays more alts and keystones than I do some kind of an advantage. I tend to do keystones with people from my team that play more than one character, and it's like, oh, this particular tune doesn't actually have a plus 20 in time. Can somebody summon me? You know what I mean? Like, that just gets kind of stupid when people can't remember, like, which teleports do I have on which character or whatever, because keystone dungeons are just not like... I understand that not everybody alive is like timing plus 20s as a matter of course every season and getting their teleports, but if your group is like playing at that level, it's something you kind of stop thinking about after a while. And so it's not some giant hurdle to get over per character because you're so good at this character. It's much more just an expression of you as a player, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I certainly do. I think it makes perfect sense to be doing the restrictions they're putting in place so far. And there's also other ones coming in. Like the primary exemption for being Warband wide is those that are intrinsically per character, such as Dreaming of Worms. Another exception is achievements that highly celebrate prestigious accomplishments on a specific character, like the Gladiator Dragonflight Season 3 achievement, whose title and progress will remain character specific. To address how we progress for achievements across characters, for most achievements, they're adding your progress across all your characters. For example, if you have done 200 personal crafting orders on 3 different characters, the personal crafting achievement will immediately be completed upon login. There are a few achievements where it only makes sense to take the highest value across your character, such as the ability to reach level 70. In most cases, these are not being converted as there is no benefit. For the exceptions where they are, we will use the highest value for each on your character. It would be weird to have 5 level 20s and get the achievement for hitting level 70. It just would be weird. So they're not doing that. So it's not a thing. Keep that in mind as well. They are going to have shared flight points across your warband. So that's going to be a thing, but they're keeping map exploration as an individual character thing. They do think there's something rewarding about running around and exploring stuff. However, there is going to be a toy that you can get called the Warband Map to Everywhere All at Once, which will let you reveal all maps in all regions for a member of your warband. So you sort of have an out of like, hey, if you still want the joy and exploration of running around exploring the map, and you don't want your map fully revealed because one of your characters has the map fully revealed in an area, or just cumulatively happening across your entire account, doesn't make as much sense. So they're just going to put a toy in that essentially does that for you, and you can choose to use it if you want to, which I think is a great change as far as that goes.
I actually really like having the map unexplored for tunes that haven't been there, because they could maybe help you figure out like what content you want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, and it's, I don't know, it's such like an intrinsic part of WoW gameplay from day one. I mean, back in 04 when vanilla servers opened up, exploring new areas on the map was so cool and rewarding, right? When it would fill in with the overworld map. So
dude, the experience from it alone was like, ooh, this is actually pretty valuable to run around and explore the map.
Yeah, I mean, that was a whole part of the loop. I mean, it still really is, but so I like the fact that by default it's off, but you can turn the map on if you want to. Like, that's actually a pretty nice solution, because it would be a bummer, I think, if warbands and account wide everything just meant that piece goes away. There's something just cool about it, every time you take a new character through an area. But the flight paths being shared, that's very good.
Yes.
those what were they called? The map toys, right? They gave you all the flight points. They're getting pretty expensive. So that's a really good change.
Well, and there's a lot of them, and you don't inevitably forget to learn one of them, and then you have to find out which one it was and figure out which one it was. Yeah. So I'm glad that came in. I also I just want to speak to this. To me, shows how much thought has gone into warbands in general. To think about do we want map exploration to be something that becomes warband wide, and how do we want to solve this, sort of problem that we came up with as far as this goes? Like, that's a detail that could be very easily overlooked, and just suddenly what goes over warband wide, and people are like, oh, I wish this wasn't, right? But it's too late now. Like, because once you merge all that data, you've merged all that data. Like, that's a thing, right?
Yeah,
So
I don't think you're going back
yeah,
on that for something like the map exploration. Yeah.
exactly. So I think it's great to see them thinking about it this closely. All right, currencies. Like map exploration, it's been decided to be handled a little bit differently. Rather than having you basically purchase an item to move currency around within your warbands, they've created a new user interface for it that will allow you to actually select a currency and choose to transfer a certain amount of it from one character to another within your warband. Currencies intended for purchasing warband-wide items such as cosmetics, pets, and mounts will usually be completely free to transfer between members of your warband, but otherwise there might be some sort of resources, like standard expansion-based resources or dragon supplies, right, that you're spending to move currency from one to the other. That way you're not necessarily creating a situation where you have to keep buying items and moving them around a bunch, which I appreciate as well. All right, items and gear within your warband. While gear is one of the primary forms of character-specific progression in World of Warcraft, we're adding a variety of improvements to items and gear and managing and collecting them more conveniently and alternate character friendly. So the Warband Bank can be accessed at bankers throughout the game. It will provide 5 tabs with 98 available inventory slots. Each tab can be purchased and increased for an increasing amount of gold. These tabs will be customized with an icon and organized like a guild vault. This bank is in addition to your individual character bank vault. Any non-soulbound items can go into the Warband Bank. All characters in your warband can access the bank to freely deposit and withdraw items. The bank will also behave like the reagent bank, allowing you to craft items using reagents from it without having to withdraw them. In addition, the bank allows you to deposit and manually withdraw gold across your characters in your warband. In other words, all the gold that you have across all of your characters in your warband everywhere is going to be piled into one big pile, which means no longer do you have to worry about how much gold you can transfer from one server to another and how you're going to do that. And do you have to buy up a bunch of mounts and pets that you're going to sell on the other server because you can only bring across so much gold? Or do you have to leave a whole bunch of gold behind on one server because you can only move so much at a time? Which I actually dealt with when I moved over to the server I'm currently on and left a whole bunch behind on Stormrage. So it'll be nice to have all of that gold back into one big pile. And it'd be kind of hilarious to see just how much that adds up to across all of my characters that I have everywhere, because I definitely space some gold out across a lot of servers. So seeing what that adds up to will be kind of a fun thing to see that total. All right.
Yeah, one weird thing is we haven't really had much clarification, not that I've seen anyway, about gold cap and whatever.
Yep.
It sounds like, I don't know, the way they describe kind of depositing gold and stuff, is it maybe that it's your warband is not just like a shared pile of gold. You can put it in the bank, but your characters just have it. Like, why would you deposit it in the bank? I guess is my question, unless that was the case. So,
Yeah.
I just need to be able to see this, and I really wanted to ask at BlizzCon about the gold cap situation, and I didn't get a chance, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen it come up anywhere else. And I mean, it doesn't really affect me. I'm nowhere near a gold cap, if you could believe that. But I do know a couple people who have multiple gold cap tunes, and well, what does that mean? So
Yeah.
we don't entirely know yet, and it doesn't really answer my question about it, but. I love the fact that this is like an account-wide reagent bank, man. Wow, that's just super nice. Like I was saying earlier about mailing stuff back and forth to characters, that is kind of an obnoxious process and has been for a long time. If you maintain multiple different professions, this would be so streamlined. Just dump all your mats into your warband bank, and then whatever tunes you need to make whatever thing, log over, make it really, really nice, and. Also, just a ton of extra storage, right? Because this doesn't replace your bank or your other storage tabs. It's just it's an addition on top of that for your shared stuff. So, I think this is a huge upgrade. I mean, it is going to be pretty expensive to get all the tabs, and we've seen a graphic from Wowhead where currently, I guess, the example that somebody had out there was the final tab is 2.5 mil, but I mean, that's a ton of additional storage. It is
Yeah.
extremely optimal storage.
96 spaces. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
I'm
And
not.
that's,
I'm not going to
yeah.
be. I don't think I'll be. Trying to get that last Warband bank tab for quite a while.
Yeah.
So it's going to ramp up to that. But if you have, you'll be able to get a couple tabs probably and do what you need to do. So I think it's great. It's such a cool feature. I mean, that is one thing that I have used my alts for a lot over the years is for professions. Um, and just removing those barriers to moving stuff I've collected around between my characters would be really nice.
Yeah, it's 96 spaces per tab. That is a huge amount of storage space. So keep that in mind. Another thing that we're going to be seeing, which Jason already mentioned on the show when we were talking about alpha stuff, is Warbound until equipped gear. Basically, gear that you're going to find through outdoor activities and sometimes some other spaces while playing the game that ends up being a item that you can trade off to put inside your Warband bank, and another character can take it and equip it. And once they equip it, it's now soulbound to them. So we're going to see Warbound until equipped gear come in, which is great to see. The enhancing your transmog collection. Collecting transmog appearances has long been something that has required players to plan gear runs on a per armor type basis, even though item appearances are shared across account. So yes, with warbands, they're just going to make it so that if you loot a piece of gear that is a piece of plate and you are a mage, guess what? You've just earned the transmog appearance for that piece of gear. You can then collect all of these appearances. It's important to note that these changes only affect your ability to collect appearances. Existing rules on whether characters can use any of these appearances are not changing, so keep that in mind as well. You won't then be able to put a plate helm on your mage. That's not a thing. It's just changing those initial affected things.
It makes it way better to collect stuff, but it doesn't. This is not an update to transmog rules, which I think can be maybe a little confusing to some people at first. But it way streamlines collecting stuff, and it opens up your options for collecting stuff a ton.
Yeah.
So, which is really awesome. I feel like this was kind of maybe long overdue, even without account-wide everything.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, man, how many times have you
mailed a piece of plate to one of my other characters because I can't equip it on my main? A lot.
Yeah, or like just done a mod run and be like, oh, that's such a cool piece. Oh, but I can't learn it because it doesn't fall under my character's proficiency. Now you don't have that sort of obstacle. It's like you put the time into doing the mod run. You now know all the mod that you collected from that run. That's really cool.
You go back and try and restore those Garrosh Hellscream shoulders because you got them on your mage and you couldn't equip them, and you just want to leave them sitting in your bank now so that when this goes live, your warrior can equip those things. Like that's the type of thing we're talking about.
Burn your item restore on that now because it's apparently going to be everything in your bag when it goes. So if you can hang on to something until then, you can benefit from it. Really, you could start like piling stuff up now.
Farming stuff now. Yeah. Exactly. All right. They're also making it easier to collect appearances for unbound items. You will no longer need to equip a piece to add it to your collection. Anytime you destroy an item via disenchanting, deleting, selling, etc., you will automatically collect the appearance. There is also new flow to directly collect appearances from bind on equip, BOE gear that you cannot equip by converting it to Warbound until equipped instead. Existing gear in your character level bank or bag will automatically be added to your transmog inventory when you first log into that character, which means, yes, you will need to log into all of your characters once this goes live to collect all the transmogs that are in their banks and bags and everywhere else. So keep that in mind too. To account for these changes, we're making a slight adjustment to how rolling for gear in raids and group loot works. Any gear that drops with transmog appearance you haven't collected yet will have the transmog option to roll for it. Rather than the greed option, transmog has priority over greed. Keep that in mind. When rolling transmog, any gear that drops that can be equipped to your current character will get a higher rolling priority than those rolling with characters who cannot equip the item, e.g. a priest will beat a warrior when both roll transmog on a piece of gear, a piece of cloth gear, sorry, not just in general, because that would just be mean. So just keep that in mind. I think this is, I'd love to see what they mean, how in execution a lot of this works, because they talk about like adding a system for BOEs to be something that you can essentially get the transmog on while still getting this converted to a Warbound until equipped item, or essentially getting a piece of gear and choosing to disenchant it, and you still get the transmog for that item even if you haven't equipped it. Or they said selling it is another way. I'm curious if it's selling counts as auction house selling. And I will say in general, I think it would be great if I got a transmog look when I looted a piece of item and then traded it to a guildie. Would be a nice thing to sort of do. You could share pieces around inside raid if that was something that was working that way. Yes, it sort of, I guess, lowers the prestige to a certain degree on pieces of gear like that, but that would be an interesting thing to discuss and hear what the devs sort of have an opinion on, as far as like, hey, I got this really wicked staff, but it's not really an upgrade for me, but I love the look of it and I want it inside this thing, but it's a huge upgrade for this other person. Could I save the look of it on my character while giving it to this other person so they get an upgrade on it? Yes, no, question, no.
That's it.
Yeah,
I gotta
tricky.
think that's a no, because now you're going across players and across accounts,
I
and like
know,
they
I
want
know.
both of you to pay for your sub next month. So, I mean, like, not to be super cynical
Fair.
about it, but I think that's the
true.
kind of where it goes into, you know, like with Diablo 3 or something, right? Like you'd have stuff like that where, oh, me and my buddy are gonna do rifts. Oh, hey, do you have this appearance? Hey, whatever. You just like move stuff around, or you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, like. Then obviously you have like the whole shared stash and all that, which is this is sort of like a shared stash in a Diablo game, but you know there's certain barriers that they always put in, because it's like, okay, this is for you as a player, and you can express it in the game in all these different ways, and this is for another player. So I feel like that would probably fit into that category. Yeah, it is the thing. I would like some more details on the BOE gear appearances, because they make it's just sort of so matter of fact, you know, to convert it to Warbound until equipped, but they don't really say what that is. But I think
like what that system is,
yeah, I think when they say selling, you know, they probably mean to a vendor. Like when you have those, like right now, if you have grays or whites or greens, you know, if you don't have the appearance, then you got to equip it or something, and then you sell it, and then it unlocks the appearance usually. There's weird rules around that don't seem super consistent. What it sounds like to me is maybe there'll be a vendor or some NPC you talk to that like, hey, I want this soulbound or this BOE item to be warbound until equipped. And then that would probably unlock the appearance at that point, because now it's warbound, and then another character can equip it. But I don't really understand what the benefit of that is versus putting it in your Warband bank and having the character that you want to equip it, and then you just get it, right? Like
right.
There's some other case I'm not thinking of when I read this, but Warbound until equipped is a weird. I think that is going to be an adjustment for some people to just kind of mentally shift into, because the item is like account bound, but once it's equipped, now it's soulbound, and it's not like you could take it off and give it to another character in your warband. It's still a soulbound item at that point, right? So that's, but I think it sounds like the idea with warbound until equipped is going to be, it's going to be higher item level than you'd get from like a typical maybe piece you could move around. It's going to be personal loot, so it'll be a cool bonus when you get it, and it'll really help you fast track gearing on another character, which all sounds really nice. But I think we are going to have some confusion among a lot of us early on about soulbound versus warbound until equipped versus bind on equip, etc. You know, they're all sort of slightly different categories, I think.
Right. Yeah, and so finally we see the updated character select screen, where there's a favorites list. You can favorite particular characters, so that you have those particular characters you play most often at the top of the list. But all of your characters from all of your realms will be available inside of that list. You'll be able to scroll through every single one of your characters, as opposed to having to go to the actual realm screen and pick a realm and pick the characters you have on that realm. You'll be able to access them through this actual main Warband character select screen. They're also adding additional information to your characters. You'll be able to see things like your item level, your professions on that character, your Mythic Plus rating on your character, your PvP rating on that character. And they do show gold on that character, which Jason speaks a little bit more information to us about this. It's probably that when this goes live, this is my guess, okay, but how the gold system is going to work. When this goes live, your Warband vault will have no gold in it at all. You will choose to deposit gold from your characters into that vault, and that vault will have some sort of cap attached to it, which means you are not worrying about all of your gold getting merged across all of your characters and somehow going above the cap and losing gold in some way. I imagine it just, all your characters' gold stays static. You have to log into those characters and choose to deposit gold into their banks. And so this way you can actually click through your characters on the character list screen and see how much gold is on each character, choose which characters you're logging into, and deposit that gold into your vault, which you can then withdraw from your vault to be able to have gold on a different character. So I don't know what the cap is going to be on the vault, but I imagine that this is a safe way of doing it so no one loses gold in this process, which would be the thing you want to avoid most as Blizzard in this. But overall, the actual screen that you get here is very cool. You have your shop and your menu and your character creation, and obviously there's still a realms list. I imagine the realms list is probably for switching regions, is what that most likely is for when I'm going to like South America servers versus the North America servers kind of thing. But we'll see what that actually looks like as far as realms go. Outside of that, it's a great screen. I'm looking forward to getting the customization for it because they've talked about adding things like different backgrounds or different landscapes. Eventually down the line, having trophies or different things you can display inside of your Warband camp on this screen. But yeah, I'm excited to get in there and check out a lot of this stuff with War Within.
Yeah, it's a cool upgrade to the login experience, and it's also very Diablo-esque, right? The campfire motif. I mean, that's like core Diablo right there. Yeah, and they do say even this post, that they're for launch you only be able to assign 4 characters, but it sounds like they are going to be expanding that in the future. That's the plan anyway. They say they're working on building more scenes to collect in the future.
I want other characters to be able to just wander through the background having a conversation with each other.
That's what I really want. Cool.
Just like you got your prime people who are chilling at the campfire, but like every now and then you just got this like 3 or 4 of your other characters just sort of stroll through in the background chatting about something and walk off screen. Like that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool. I mean, I sort of feel like this could be the vector that you essentially solve the player housing ask with. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like it's not a location in the game really, or at least it's not like attached to like a space that you're participating in gameplay in, but you could tie it to like obviously locations in the game or whatever, but as you do like more customizable stuff. And players can hang out there. They could put their, collect stuff and put it in the screen and then, move elements around or something. Maybe like if they could, they could come up with the tech for that, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think it would serve that particular type of collector, customizer, gamer that wants the housing for so long now without having this sort of problem that you can't solve down the road when there's nowhere else to put player houses or when the player houses are in a place that we never go to or, stuff like that. So I think it's really cool. I mean, I think this is going to be a huge upgrade. The Warband concept overall is going to be a huge upgrade to this game for players for years to come. I mean, in a way it's a bit overdue, but also I feel like it's evident that there's so much work involved in standing this up in a way that feels good to players that it makes sense that it's taking as long as it has. But I think this sets up the new era of the game like completely differently and in a much more modern way for WoW players. So it's really cool. I'm looking forward to it, of course. But again, my personal benefits are probably a bit more minor. But I'm really happy that they're doing this. I think it's a great way to just respect the time that people put into the game and how much people care about their accounts overall, right? Maybe not one particular character, but just how much time they spend with the game.
Yeah, that's it's going to be so cool. I'm really hoping, as you said, for different scenes and essentially be able to set different scenes. And I'm digging it, man. I want like an Ardenweald one. I want a bunch of like a Storm Peaks one. I just want all these different zones and areas to have really cool stuff to look like. I want them.
Darkmoon Faire one. How about like a Darkmoon Faire one you get from tickets and then get different props or whatever. Like that would be really cool if they could incorporate that stuff. I mean, I really feel like obviously this feature is a bit underdeveloped right now, and I think they would probably tell you that. I mean, we get that impression just from reading the blog post. And if you see alpha, if you've played it or if you see anybody playing it, like the version they have now is like kind of not entirely there. Like you'll see your traditional login, like single character login screen first sometimes, and then like the Warband login comes up over top of it. And what they had at BlizzCon, they said was just a UI mock-up, like that wasn't functional. So this is something I think it's going to evolve over time for sure. But I think it just sets a whole new tone for logging into the game and checking it out. It's really a nice upgrade, and just overall, this is going to be a thing that pays dividends.
I think
until
so
the end of WoW's time. This has nothing to do with War Within. Like, yes, this is coming in War Within. This is coming in 11.0.
Yeah.
But this is the new, essentially like face of the game for players forever, presumably, or until we get to the point where, okay, we need to revisit this because now this is too moldy and we got to do it again. But this is a whole new generation.
Exactly. All right, folks, man, this has been a heck of a big episode. I want to take a moment to thank our patrons because they've contributed a ton to our show and help us create the content that we create and help us improve on it. And we wouldn't be doing shows like this, especially this length, without your support. So thank you. And today I'm giving a big shout out to Alianas, Arajian, James, Kapawi, Max, Pinky, Shorel, and Rager. Thank you so much for all that you do to support the show. And thank you to all of our patrons who support our show. It means a lot. Like I said, Jason and I wouldn't be putting 2.5 hours in to doing a show on every Monday consistently every week, depending on what our lives and schedules were, without the help from our patrons. And it means so much, and we appreciate it so much. So man, thank you so much. If you want to join our Patreon, it's over at patreon.com/thestartingzone. There's no new patrons this week, but we appreciate everyone who hops in and supports the show, and thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, patrons, past and present. Really helps the show out immensely. It helps keep the show on track, helps keep the show on schedule, and helps the archive stay online and all that stuff. So thank you all so much. It's really, we are on the precipice of a super exciting era of WoW. I feel like there's so much good stuff coming our way the whole rest of this year, really. And, this is the last kind of little hours of holding our breath for the end of Dragonflight and on into War Within. So it's going to be a fun ride, I think.
It is. And if you folks have enjoyed this episode, another great way to support us is by leaving us those 5-star reviews over on your iTunes, your Apple Podcast. They really help out our show and raise up the charts. And we haven't had one in a little bit. So if anyone wants to hop over there and leave us a 5-star, we would really appreciate it. And we'll read it here live on the show. That's going to wrap up episode 628 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out your show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at thestartingzone or thestartingzone.com/discord. We'll actually take you over to a link where you can click on a big red button that takes you into our Discord server, and you can hop in there and talk with us over there as well. If you want to get your hands on some TSE gear, some shirts or mugs or stickers, that sort of thing, you can find it over at TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/thestartingzone, and you can check out all those designs that are there. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
So the best place to find me, as always, is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me over on Blue Sky, just J Lucas over there, just the letter J and Lucas. Video channels are at twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. I did stream some alpha the other night, and I will probably be streaming some more this week. That is my plan with Season 4 launch and everything, to get in there and start doing that stuff. So that'll be like Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern for Raid and Keystone streams and stuff. Hopefully, if my ISP cooperates. And just some breaking news here on our way out. We'll be talking a lot more about it next week, but as we've been on the air, it has been announced that May 7th is going to be the release date for 10.2.7, which is the Dark Heart patch for Dragonflight. The final content update for Dragonflight is May 7th. And then Mists of Pandaria Remix is going to be the following week, May 16th. And it's a global simultaneous release, May 16th, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and everywhere else around the world, whatever that conversion works out to. So that's super cool, man. We got, 2 weeks here to get acclimated to Season 4. Then we'll get the last story chunk and all that stuff. We'll get some new heritage armors and everything to guide us on our way out of Dragonflight. And then another week and a half from there, that Thursday night MOP Remix night is going to be really fun, man. So,
yeah.
This week is huge, and then we're just on the verge of a couple more huge weeks. So it's good times. I'm really excited to be getting back in there and having new stuff to do, new goals to chase, because it was a lean couple months, but we're ready to get into it now.
Yeah, we're definitely on the fast part of the roller coaster at the moment for everyone who's having a good time on that. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.